Today we're going to be tackling the topics of moral hazard and adverse selection in economics. A moral hazard is a concept in economics that correlates risky behavior and the cost that you as an individual will bear as a result of that risky behavior. When one is protected from the consequences of their risky behavior, a lack of incentive to protect themselves from that risky activity will occur. This is a moral hazard. Why don't we take a look at an example? So, one possible example of a moral hazard could be, say if you don't have car insurance, you might not be as careful when you're parking or when you're driving. See, these two cars right here are parked really close together. This person is probably likely doesn't have insurance, or he does have insurance, due to the fact that he's parked so close. He would probably be less careful when he's driving or parking and hitting someone's door, as you see right here. Let's take a look at a graph of moral hazard with car insurance. As you see charted is the demand line, the first one, and then let's take a look at the second line. Here we see that the second line, the demand with insurance, is larger than that of the first demand line. This is probably due to the fact that the demand with insurance is increased, and you are more likely to consume your car insurance, if you have it, that is.
Now, let's take a look at another example. Moral hazard is about the reduced incentive to care. In this example, the student is not likely to care as much because their parents are paying for the tuition. Since their parents are paying all of the costs, the student is more likely to be reckless with how they spend their time. Opposed to if the student paid for all of their own tuition, their time would be spent differently because if they failed, they would be the ones suffering the loss. Someone is much more likely to be careful and not take risk when they are the ones bearing the cost.
So this is another example of moral hazard, and it is if you're at a university and your parents are paying for your tuition, you're more likely to go to parties and hang out with your friends and not worry about school as much as if you're paying for your tuition. You're going to buckle down and study as much as you can because you're the one bearing that cost.
Looking at the moral hazard tuition graph, the demand line increases due to the risky behavior when parents pay for tuition versus the demand line when students pay for their own tuition. The demand line shows increasing when the parents are paying, but not when the students paying because they're less likely to be risky when they are bearing the cost. Parents paying for college tuition could even lead to more costs because grades might suffer from the risky behavior.
Now let's take a look at adverse selection. Adverse selection refers to the imperfect information in the market. Oftentimes, in transactions, one side may withhold pertinent information to the transaction that would leave the party lacking this info to make a decision that could lead to them suffering the adverse consequences of the transactions. Let's take a look at an example. Alright, and one form of adverse selection would be, let's say, two people are going into a deal for like an insurance policy. You have one person who's he's a smoker regularly, and he doesn't exercise at all. Then you have someone that does exercise daily, and he doesn't smoke ever. And when they go to get their insurance, their health insurance, the smoker who doesn't exercise, he tells the insurance policy that he never smokes and that he regularly exercises. That would be an example because this is the insurance company. They wouldn't know that the man's lying to him, so it gives him a leg up on the insurance company, and he'll be paying the same amount as, let's say, the person who does exercise every day and doesn't smoke. Now let's graph some differences in information. The graph on the left showcases what happens when you have consumers withholding information from the insurance company. When all the info is one-sided, it can lead to mistakes, such as charging people little amounts for health insurance when really they are active smokers. The graph on the right showcases how information is well distributed, utilizing regular checkups, providing insurance companies with current information about their consumer lets both parties make informed and equal decisions.